Lung cancer causes more deaths than almost any other malignancy. About 230,000 people every year are diagnosed with lung cancer. It's estimated that about 1 in 14 Americans will probably get lung cancer at some point in their lives. We think that the major cause of most lung cancers has to do with smoking tobacco or using other tobacco products. But it's notable that at the time of diagnosis, about 50% of the people who are diagnosed with lung cancer are not current smokers. We also think that radon, which is a natural form of radiation, may be a factor in some cases, and certainly asbestos. These are the main causes that we're aware of. There may be also genetic causes or genetic reasons that people contract this disease. The 5-year survival rate overall for all patients who have lung cancer is about 16%, which is very low. It's much lower than that for patients with either breast cancer or prostate cancer. Another thing that's probably not at the top of most people's list, especially among women, is that lung cancer claims the deaths of more women than breast cancer or ovarian cancer combined. And the US Surgeon General has actually reported that we're currently in an epidemic of lung cancer among women. The treatment in the clinic is surgery if it's localized disease. If it has spread regionally or into other sites that are more distant, then we tend to use chemotherapy and radiation therapy much more often. Unfortunately, though, chemotherapy also has side effects, and the side effects are usually due to the same kind of effects in cells that are dividing quickly within your body. A reduction in your blood cell counts by affecting the marrow, a reduction in perhaps hair growth, and nausea and vomiting because of changes that happen in the gut. One of our goals is to try to find ways to try to reduce some of these side effects by perhaps reducing the doses of these drugs by giving them in combination with a new type of therapy that we've been investigating. The trial is being conducted not only by myself, but my colleagues, Eddie Guerin and Lee Goodglick, who are both professors at UCLA. So there's a number of pieces of evidence that came to light from the clinic that informed us that estrogens indeed play an important role in the genesis of lung cancer. So our group at UCLA did experiments in vitro using cells in culture dishes, and we found that these tumor cells also made their own estrogen. They had an enzyme that's called aromatase, and this particular enzyme can produce estrogens in the lung and make these estrogens available to promote the growth of these lung cells. What we did then is we took this information and went back to the clinic and started looking at samples, biopsy material from patients who volunteered samples of their lung tissues. And we found that in human tissues from the clinic, we could also find estrogen receptors, and we found aromatase enzyme. So we went back from the clinic into the laboratory, and we started testing how we could stop this cycle, how we could break this circuit. Cells making estrogen, estrogen feeding back on the cells, causing them to grow and to spread. And what we did is we took pieces of human tumors and we grew them as xenografts in a model system. And we found that if we treated the tumors with the standard chemotherapies, the platinum compounds, the tumors would subside to some extent, but eventually they would grow back and grow back pretty much the same size all over again. And this is very similar to what we see in the clinic when patients are treated with this type of therapy. They tend to become resistant. And then we took an aromatase inhibitor, one that's already FDA approved for use in breast cancer, and we added that to this model system, and we found that the aromatase inhibitor was also very effective in interfering with the growth of these cells, but it seemed to be even more effective than the platinum chemotherapy. And then we tried an experiment where we added both of the compounds together, the platinum chemotherapy in combination with the aromatase inhibitor. And then we saw something that we really hadn't expected. The tumors pretty much disappeared. And once we stopped the treatment, the tumors did not seem to recur in this model system. So this is where we are now. This is what has led us to initiating this trial, which is now being supported by funds from Gateway. And we have set up what's called a phase 1 clinical trial. Our goal is to treat anywhere from 12 to 18 women in this phase 1 trial using an aromatase inhibitor at increasing doses in combination with a standard chemotherapy regimen that's used in the clinic. And our hope is that we'll find that this is safe and tolerable treatment. And we're hoping that eventually we will be able to find doses where we can actually reduce the amount of chemotherapy that's necessary in order to achieve what we think is a synergistic effect. The big problem in research has been limits on funding, particularly in lung cancer. Lung cancer, although it kills more people than any other cancer, has the lowest level of research funding of any malignancy. And I don't really understand why that's the case, but it needs to change. And I think that we need to be putting more funding into research on some of these new pathways where we understand the genetics and we understand the biology. And I'm very grateful to the Gateway for Cancer Research for stepping forward and providing the funding to move this particular project forward and other projects that are equally beneficial. In particular, we would like to thank all of the individuals, companies who have donated to Gateway in order to make our trial possible. Without you, we wouldn't be doing this. Thank you.